Hi there, this is Jen, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm creating a card from the Seven Kids Craft Store new release, and I am going to be using the super cute stamp set. It is called a Treehouse Fairies, and it's got two little fairies, a mushroom, some leaves, and a branch. And the one little girl fairy that I'm going to be using today is on a swing, so she'll be swinging from that branch. And then I'm going to go ahead and I grabbed some 6x6 paper from my stash, and this one is an LDRS set, and it's called Time for Tea. And I believe this is a couple years old, so I don't know if it's available, but it is a super pretty set of papers, and I really wanted to get some of my pattern papers out. Kelly, the owner of Seven Kids Craft Store, does some amazing cards using pattern papers combined with stamps, and so that inspired me to try and do something like that. So I've gone ahead and I've grabbed several pattern papers that I like, and I'm just going to take the stamps that I want and match them up with the pattern papers and stamp those out. And so for this one I am taking some of the green. It's got really faint striped lines. The lines are striped. And so here are my images that I will be cutting out. So I am going to fussy cut these, and I am fussy cutting right on the line. I don't want any of the pattern paper on the right hand side of that stamped line. So in other words, I don't want a border on my images. I just want it pretty clean and without any border at all. So here are the images that I've cut out. So I've got the hat, the little dress, some of the dots for the mushroom, the branch, and some leaves. Originally I was going to use this other piece of paper with the mushrooms from the paper pack, and I decided against it. And then here's my little girl image. I've gone ahead and used some Bristol Smooth cardstock as well as my zigs to color her up. And then I grabbed my colored pencils and just add a few little details to some of the images, just to add a little something extra. And so here I was coloring a little bit of the hat. And then that little loop in that hat was pretty challenging for me to cut out of the pattern paper. And so on the stamped image where I'm going to be gluing my pieces of pattern paper, I just decided it wasn't worth it to try and hassle with it. So you're not going to see it. And so I just went ahead and cut it off. And you'll still have that loop from that pattern paper. And then, so I'm just going to go ahead and adhere all of my little images. So I adhered the hat, and now I'm adhering the little dress. And those are the only paper pieces for the little fairy girl image. And so next I will take the little mushroom, and this time I wizened up and I applied the glue to the stamped image instead of the little paper pieces. It was a lot easier that way. So I'm just using my jewel picker, and I am just grabbing those images and placing them in the appropriate spots on that mushroom. And at this point, I had this great idea that I would make a shaker card. And if you've watched my channel, you know that there's not a lot of shaker cards on it, and there's a good reason for that, and it's that I get very frustrated with making shaker cards. Either one thing or the other, and so I don't make a lot of them. But I went ahead and I'm grabbing a dauber, and I'm using some what is this, Vintage Photo Distress ink, and I'm just distressing all around the pattern paper inside of the circle. I also distress that green frame that I'm going to be placing over it, and I just distressed a little bit around the images that I'm going to be using. And so now I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment before I get too much further. So I'm taking my black VersaFine ink, and I'm going to stamp that sentiment up. And then here is where the fun shaker part starts. So I am taking a piece of packaging, and I am using my double-sided adhesive to adhere on the back. And this is my piece of plastic. It's stuck to that, and then I had to wipe it off, and then my side crinkled right there, and so I had to pull it up a little bit and reposition it. And so I went ahead and I placed that branch first before I put the plastic on, because I knew I wanted it in front of that window, and so I went ahead and did that first. And then I put all my foam tape, and it looks just beautiful. As you can see, it looks an absolute mess, but thankfully you're not going to see that part of the card. I added my shaker pieces, and then I am using a piece of pattern paper from that same Tea Time pattern paper set. And most of the shaker bits I'm using are from the Pick Event Studios. And I've added those along with some different jewels from other shaker sets. And now I'm just going to go ahead and adhere my little fairy girl onto the branch. And this card is kind of an odd size. The frame that I used around the outside was a little bit bigger than the size of card I usually make, so I had to make my card base 4.5 by 5 3/4. So it is a little bit bigger than what I would normally use. And that pretty much completes the card. I will go ahead and add the mushroom, and then I also get some diamond stickles out and add that in different spots around the card and on the fairy wings. And that is pretty much it. If you are interested in the stamp set or in the bundle for the new release from 7 Kids Crafts, of course I will have links for that below, so you can go ahead and check that out. As well, Kelly has a lot of different items in the shop. She has the Lavinia brand, a lot of mixed media stuff that's super cool. So I hope you check her out. She's a small business, and I would love it if you would support her. And that is it for me today. If you liked this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I will catch you next time.